Hello and welcome back to Over the Top News. This week we are joined by a very special guest, Congresswoman-elect Donna Shalala. Thank you so much for joining me.
Happy to join you.
So,
very.
How many varies can we throw out there? Well, you are indeed very special because this is my first interview with a sitting Congresswoman.
Literally.
Yeah, well, not sitting yet. You don't start the new Congress session until January 3rd, but you are literally sitting here in the chair in the studio, so I could not be more excited, more happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here too.
So, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're representing the 27th district. Tell me a little bit about how the campaign went.
It went pretty well. I mean, it's a tricky district because you have to recognize that different parts of the district have different interests. Little Havana, for example, has lots of people that are struggling and real poverty there. The rich areas of Coral Gables, or at least mostly rich, of Coral Gables. The Coconut Grove is a very different on the West Grove than it is from the rest of Coconut Grove. So you really have to design a campaign that's responsive to different parts of the community. And I, of course, got all of downtown Miami, all the beaches, Key Biscayne, all the way up to Richmond Heights, well, all the way down to Richmond Heights, because it's south. So it's a very diverse district. It's heavily Hispanic, about 67%. But interesting, 90% of the people in the district watch their news in English.
Interesting. So like you said, it's a very Hispanic district. And there I go with the varies again, but it is a very Hispanic district. So have you picked up any Spanish?
I have picked up some Spanish. I think what I really picked up was my Cuban cousins. I have Cuban cousins. If my grandfather, who came from Lebanon, had left a week later with his first cousins, I would be Cuban today. So there are Cuban Shalalas. They're actually called Shalalas. and on Spanish radio in this town, they call me La Shalala. So we actually made T-shirts that said La Shalala.
So is there any specific moment from the campaign trail that stands out to you as the moment where you really connected with voters, with, your constituents?
I think what struck me was wherever I went in the community, people knew who I was, not just from the University of Miami, but from other things I had done in the community. So I was well recognized in the community. I had to reintroduce myself as part of the campaign. That's one of the things that you have to do. And I had to convince the public that I was broader than just the former president of the University of Miami.
Yeah, and actually one moment on your campaign that stuck out to me, I was actually covering the joint Obama-Gillum rally right before Election Day, and you were there giving a speech, and almost, I'd say, a firebrand speech. You're accusing Donald Trump of not being a citizen?
No, I actually, it was a play on what he had done to Barack Obama. I said, basically, is Donald Trump an American? Will someone go check his citizenship? Because he doesn't behave like an American. Doesn't believe in free speech, doesn't believe in freedom of the press. He doesn't believe in immigration, and we're a land of immigrants. So I went through a list of things that the president had done.
Starting your own birther movement.
Yes, but basically pointing out that what he was doing was un-American. So it got a huge response, though my campaign didn't like it much.
Well, the crowd, I was there, they really enjoyed it, but your staff, your campaign wasn't...
Well, they would prefer if I was more conservative and duller, I think.
Conservative?
Yeah.
Not on the issues, I'm assuming, on the...
No, just more careful in terms of what I said. But I didn't make any mistakes during the course of the campaign. I mean, no one caught me lying or making a verbal mistake. I just had some fun that day because it was in fact a rally, and the speech had to be a rally speech. It wasn't a substantive issues speech, it was a rally speech.
Well, now that the campaign is over, is there any story, picture, video that you were worried that was going to surface but didn't, that you could tell us about?
Yeah, I actually thought it was your last show that they would pick up that would cause me problems. in the campaign because, of course, I've had a lot of fun here at the University of Miami, and there were certainly occasions on your comedy show that my opponent could have used, but of course she wasn't organized enough to take advantage of that. I think your comedy show actually had an impact on the campaign, at least a couple of points.
So now that the campaign's over, you're heading out to D.C. What do you hope to actually accomplish in your 2, potentially more years in D.C.?
Well, one of the things I promised during the campaign is if people voted for me, I could hit the ground running because I know the issues. Certainly, the immigration issues are important to this community, particularly extending TPS to Venezuelans and Nicaraguans, and finding a pathway to citizenship for the DACA kids, as well as for other immigrant groups that have been here for a very long period of time. I want to work on sensible gun control, and I believe the Democrats are going to take some votes on that. We need infrastructure that affects sea level rise and all the environmental issues we have to deal with here in Florida, because that is night and day for us. And then healthcare. We need to protect the pre-existing conditions so that every insurance policy covers pre-existing conditions, because if you don't cover that, you don't have health care. So those are the major issues I think the people in this district want me to work on.
So those are the huge, huge, huge issues, but is there anything more niche, more specific, or more just on a personal level you hope to accomplish in D.C.?
I want to take a look at student debt, because frankly, students are paying more in interest rates for their debt than they would if they bought a car or bought a house. So we need to look at student debt and find a way to help grind it down for young people so that they can buy a house, they can buy a car, they can get married. So many people are ground down by the current student debt, and we just have to do something about that.
So you're going from here, South Florida, Miami, the literal swamp, to Washington, the proverbial swamp. Are you ready for anything that goes along with that?
Well, you know, I've lived in Washington before, and I've worked in Washington, and I've worked across the aisle. I definitely have worked across the aisle with Republicans, and we need to find some things we can work with them on. Infrastructure is probably one of them. We need to deal with our traffic problems here in Miami, and we have to deal with sea level rise. So I think that's one where we can find some compromise. We ought to be able to find compromise on immigration. Our immigration policies, I believe in strong borders, but you don't take children away from their mothers. I mean, this is un-American, really fundamentally un-American. So there are lots of things we need to stop, but I'm interested in the things that we need to get done that improve the lives of people here in South Florida.
So as you've mentioned, there's a lot of issues that you want to work on. You hope they get resolved next 2+ years. But obviously your background is in the sciences and health and public health. So I'm curious, when you were in Bill Clinton's cabinet, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Secretary of HHS, I'm just curious. We all understand what health is, but what exactly is human services?
Welfare, child care, the issues, Head Start. So it's all the children's issues when they're very young, but it also involves the welfare system in the United States. Basically, it's a safety net that we have for people who are very poor or fall into poverty for a short period of time.
So, you know, entitlements, welfare, this whole ball game. Is there anything specifically you think that needs to change? Because I hear all these reports, Social Security is running out of money by this date or by this date. Do we need to change something, or is it blown out of proportion, the amount of money that is going to be left for Social Security?
Well, if you do a tax cut for the rich and you spend $1 trillion, you leave out Social Security as part of that. And the Republicans have already announced that they want to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid to pay for their tax cut. The tax cut was for the rich people. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid is for middle class and poor people. So we need to be careful about what our values are. And our values are people have earned their Social Security, they fought our wars, they built our country, they've earned Medicare, again, for the same reasons. And Medicaid is there to protect all of us, because if people don't have health insurance and they're very poor, they go to emergency rooms, and that shifts big costs onto the rest of us.
Awesome. And my last question, not to get uber political, but Democrats have taken back the House, looking for a new Speaker of the House. And do you think that Nancy Pelosi will continue to be Democrat Speaker, even though she has really high unfavorables?
You know, she has high, Nancy Pelosi is awesome. She has high unfavorables because the Republicans decided to beat on her with all of their ads. She does not have high unfavorables with people like me who know her skill set, and that is she knows how to herd cats. And the House caucus, the members of the House, either on the Republican side or the Democratic side, are not easy. They all have different ideas. They're to the left, they're to the right, they're down the middle. Nancy has been very skillful. I think she'll get some things done because of her skill level. And therefore, I am going to support her in the new Congress.
So just to be clear, there's no chance for a Speaker Shalala in our future?
No. That's just Congresswoman Shalala from South Florida.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was wonderful. I learned a lot, and I hope our viewers did as well.
Thank you.